Microsoft losing its bid, at least temporarily, by the way of a court judgment. Karthik, the deal, if it were to go through, a $69 billion deal, if I'm not wrong, could have paved way for one of the biggest mergers and acquisitions in the gaming industry. What is the deal about, and why did the US court put a full stop, at least temporarily, on it?
So, Shweta, if you remember, this actually came up in the EU antitrust courts also last month, and EU was trying to block Microsoft's acquisition of Activision. And thereafter, Microsoft had taken to the US courts, and now the US courts seem to have upheld this decision of barring Microsoft from going ahead and acquiring Activision. Now, Activision is a large gaming company, and it owns and sort of produces and has a license for games such as Candy Crush and Call of Duty. Both of those games have been pretty much legendary in in the gaming space across the world, and they've cut through social barriers and cultural and geographic barriers, and really made Activision a very valuable company. $69 billion is the valuation. Now, for the gaming industry, this thus far is the biggest bid for a deal to have gone through. But yeah, Microsoft's entry into the gaming sector is being seen as perhaps anti-competitive, and it comes at a point where there is there is talk of breaking up big tech into smaller subsidiaries and smaller companies, and not letting them control a lion's share of of any industry,
Right.
so to speak. So we're also looking at Google, and we're looking at how Google is also up against antitrust in the US for anti-competitive practices. So broadly, it's a function of big tech not being allowed to get into every large business and increase their monopolies, even in industries that they are not existing in and want to enter. So those seem to be the main reasons why this deal is being blocked both in the EU as well as in the US.
Okay. Amit, from what we are given to understand, Microsoft has been trying to get an approval for this merger worldwide. While many countries have agreed, US and UK have proved to be dampener for this big deal. And at this point in time, there is, of course, a temporary halt on the deal. The deal cannot go through, at least in the US, which is where it was supposed to go through. What does this mean for the gaming industry? Why are there trust issues with this particular deal?
Well, it is a case of abuse of dominance, if I may put it that way. Candy Crush is the biggest, most popular game. Even the surveys say so. Call of Duty is very popular. After this deal, Microsoft's ex-boss would have gotten exclusive access to everything that Activision Blizzard has produced, leaving Nintendo and PlayStation out in the cold. So that is abuse of dominance. So that is one reason why this whole thing of basically, if I may put it broader, the FANG big tech companies trying to get monopolize their businesses in whichever fields they are in. So that is one. And the other one is they are opposing it as far as the modalities go. They have to, Microsoft and Activision have to submit their legal arguments opposing the preliminary injunction by the 16th of June, and the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, has to reply to that by the 20th of June. That is tomorrow and few days from now.
Okay.
So that is what the modalities look like in the near future. But again, I'll come back to that phrase, abuse of dominance. That is what Europe and America commissions are opposing.
Essentially, and from what we know, the Federal Trade Commission took Microsoft to court over this particular deal last year as well. They didn't want the merger to go through. They have brought in at least a temporary injunction during which time there cannot be a merger. But if merger were to go through, your argument is, and the argument of course of the Trade Commission is in both the US and the UK, that this would lead to just one single player and kill competition. That is what anti-competitive boils down to.
Yes.
And that is interesting because there are very limited few players in the gaming industry.
Yes, and like again, the big tech companies, they are in whichever field they are being accused of these practices in different countries. you look at across the board, Alphabet has been accused of it.
Right.
Microsoft has been accused of it. So they are trying to monopolize their businesses, and they are allowed to do so. But yeah,